Hey everyone, it's Corey with Reel Filmmaking, and today's episode is one that I've looked forward to doing for a long time. I actually kind of had it on the back burner from last year, wasn't able to get to it, but today I'm breaking down how I shot that little microfilm that you just saw. I'm going to give you some behind the scenes of my creative process and, show you all the power that you can get with your Canon EOS M to get stuff looking pretty filmic, Hollywood level, if you will. The whole inspiration for this short film was I was working on a big short film that I shot last year and have edited and submitted to some places. I'm looking forward to sharing more about that here on the channel this year. But in doing that, I was doing a lot of the pre-production, I was directing it, I wrote the film, and as I was talking to my cinematographer, I really wanted to be able to convey like the type of feeling, the mood, the vibe that I wanted for this short film. And so that involved me needing to go do some tests myself to find out visually what I wanted this film to be. And after doing some research and watching different excerpts of things, the film that I wanted to start with to take a little bit of inspiration from was the film No One Will Save You. Now this film came out a few years ago. It's kind of a little bit bigger than indie film, but very much in the spirit of it. It's like horror, thriller, a little sci-fi, home invasion, alien stuff. It's got a lot mixed into it. It's really good. I'd recommend you go check it out if you haven't seen it. But I love the vibe. I love the color grading in this film. I love how it's shot. Just a lot of like claustrophobic angles. There's a home invasion near the beginning of the film, which is kind of the catalyst for the main character, her trying to figure out what's going on and to basically, outwit the situation, if you will. And this home invasion happens in her house, and you have a lot of just very close calls with different things where she's trying to evade this person, this thing that is in her space. And you have a lot of claustrophobic shots. You have a lot of things happening in just a couple rooms of this house. And the short film that I wrote and directed very much was in the same style, even though it's not a sci-fi film. It is in a very contained space. It happens all in one house. Watching a film like No One Will Save You was very helpful in just thinking through maybe some shots I might want to do. And it's very helpful in communicating like a tone and a feel to my cinematographer and my whole team working on this. So without further ado, let's break this down. So for this short film, a big thing was finding the right frame to shoot from. In No One Will Save You, in this home invasion sequence that I've talked about, there is a lot of shooting past things, shooting with what's called a dirty frame, having a lot of depth in the backside of your frame. And in this home invasion scene that happens at the beginning of the film and a little bit later when things are kind of near the climax, lots of light comes in through the windows. They use a lot of cool things to amplify that in the effect, but I needed to find a frame where I would have some sort of window that I could shoot light through, blow it out, have it look really cool, and essentially always kind of backlight the scene. So I shot in my mudroom. I've got a glass big sliding door panels there, and I was able to pump a ton of light in through the window. My main key light that I used, honestly, for this was a 100-watt RGB light. And I decided to go with the 100-watt RGB light because a lot of the stylized color and the look that I wanted to borrow from No One Will Save You, I wanted to try to get as much of that in camera as possible. In the color grade, I love doing color grading. I can amplify that, but I wanted to get as close as I could shooting in camera. So I dialed it in as close as I could, like kind of a bluish, teal, greenish mix. And I blasted that through the window, and that was my key light. So I used a 100-watt RGB light as my main key light, and as you can see, I didn't have barn doors. I actually didn't have my Fresnel attachment with me when I shot this, so I just had to make do. Literally went into my garage, found some boxes, cut them up, and kind of made like, a poor man's barn doors with it. But the main reason I wanted to make the barn doors is I wanted to control the spill of light that you see coming through here. I didn't want it to just flood everything in there. I wanted it to be a little bit more directional. In No One Will Save You, there's a lot of the light that comes in and it's very directional. These like very directional beams of light, these shafts of light. And so I wanted to do the best I could to kind of emulate that. as I'm shooting, so all the light doesn't spill directly into the mudroom and go everywhere. You kind of have it a little bit tighter, a little bit more focused coming in and hitting me. After that, I used some atmospheric aerosol to haze up the scene. This is going to make light look better, you know, as you have it just diffuse with the aerosol. I'd actually give a tip. If you're thinking about using atmospheric aerosol, I would recommend, if you have access to a haze machine, just to go that way. They're pretty cheap. You can buy the solution pretty cheap. A lot of it's like water-based. And the biggest downside with atmospheric aerosol is after you spray it, it kind of leaves like a light sticky residue on everything that is just a pain to clean. So in addition to my Keylight blasting all that light in, I had to make sure that the rest of the sliding glass door windows that I was seeing in the frame was blown out. So I took a 200 watt light, just bicolor, took it outside in my backyard and put it about like 15-20 feet from the window. I hung an extra panel of diffusion, which was just a shower curtain that I had laying someplace, and I blasted the 200 watt light through that. So I essentially had a kind of a double diffusion. I had it going through the shower curtain and then coming through the sliding glass door. It was another layer of diffusion. And so by the time you got to the look in camera, it basically just whited out. It blew out that whole rest of the window, besides the part that the more bluish green light was coming in, which was the effect I wanted. I didn't want you to be able to really see what was going on outside. If this is something like in this sci-fi film, like it's an alien invasion or something is happening, like something's exploding, there's a big light outside, I don't want you to be able to see outside. The tension is all inside. Let's talk camera specs, what I shot this with. So of course, I was using the EOS M. I was using Magic Lantern, using the crop mood build, and I was shooting in 4.8K, so it's one of the 1x3 modes, and I was shooting in 14-bit, just to give me the most range of color when I was grading. I wanted this to feel more like filmic and kind of gritty, so I actually did shoot purposely with a higher ISO. That also helps because it's just really dark, and even though I had that light coming in through the mudroom, honestly, it's like I still needed a little bit more light, so just having to bump the ISO really worked for that. But was shooting at 1600 ISO, did a little bit of noise reduction in the color grade, but not too much. I wanted some of that natural grain. I kind of like the way that the EOS M handles noise, you know, to a certain degree, so I was kind of rocking with it. I shot this with two lenses, primarily the Bright & Star 35mm 0.95. I've reviewed that here on this channel. You can check it out. It's a super fast lens for crop sensor cameras, and it came in clutch for this shoot, so I was able to shoot that pretty wide open. If not all the way open, I was like shooting at like 1.4 or something, but pretty open for this to get as much light as I could in for all of the medium shots and then like the tight shot of me at the end. The one shot that I did use another lens for was the beginning establishing shot, and I shot that with the Bright & Star 12mm. It's an f2.8, and I really wanted that wide feel for this establishing shot, so it worked out perfectly for that, and fairly fast for a wide angle lens, 2.8. After I got all that set up and I kind of got into place and tested a couple things, I found that I needed a little bit more light just on me to separate me from the rest of the darkness in the scene. So I threw a tube on the floor, probably like a couple feet in front of me, and that just helped to bring a little bit more definition to my face and separate me from everything black in the scene. So after I shot it, I brought it into Resolve, worked on a grade, and was able to dial in a lot more of that no one will save you look that I wanted, and do some sound design, and voila, we have a little bit of sci-fi microfilm. So I had a really fun time just trying out this look and trying to see if I could get the image and the whole feel that I was seeing in No One Will Save You. I think growing as a filmmaker, particularly if you're a cinematographer or director, being able to find bits and pieces from films that you love and being able to replicate that will help you grow in your filmmaking knowledge. First, it just helps you understand like how they did that. And second, you're just building tools, putting more tools into your tool belt that you can bring to your future projects. The funny thing about this is I shot this, I got this little microfilm, I was able to show people, but ultimately at the end of the day, I ended up slightly going a different direction than this vibe. This felt a little bit too sci-fi. There were some things that I did keep from it, and so that was fun. But yeah, it was just a fun little experiment. So if you enjoyed this video, if you found it fun, helpful, learned anything, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And I'm really thinking about doing this as kind of like a little ongoing series, and you know, what Hollywood level looks that I can get out of the Canon EOS 7 Magic Lantern. I'd love to hear recommendations. If you have film recommendations that you think would be kind of a fun challenge to try to get with the Canon EOS M, please leave them down in the comments. And I'm serious, this was a ton of fun to work on. And yeah, until next time, keep making movies and watching movies, and I'll see you on Reel Filmmaking.